I find it comically hilarious that the moment Senku and the gang leave Japan and step foot in America, they are instantly greeted with unsolicited, unfiltered, pure gun violence.
I know that faint's in the air. It's smoke from a fired gun. Retreat to the bomb!
They were in the land of the free for less than 5 minutes and instantly experienced the Second Amendment rights. It would have been less stereotypical if they had Donald Trump serving them a McDonald's meal upon arrival. Anyways, this season of Dr. Stone was by far my favorite season yet. I almost shed a tear at some of these episodes, and with the final season of Dr. Stone coming out this year, we might as well get up to date. So let's cut the yapping and get straight into the meat and potatoes. I don't know if you can tell, but I am extremely ill right now. I blame it on the fact that it's been raining in the UK for almost 40 days straight, but I didn't want to keep you guys waiting any longer, so here we are. After defeating prehistoric Kevin Durant and reviving Tsukasa, the gang has decided to go to America so they can collect materials to eventually go to the moon to find Y-Man. Whilst on the Perseus, Senku and Ryusui have a disagreement about which route they should take to get to America. Senku wants to take a more difficult but quicker route, which will take 40 days, but Ryusui wants to take the safer and longer route, which will take around 70 days. And I'm with Ryusui. We got a bunch of Japanese high schoolers sailing through the Grand Line without a log post. Senku explains that since they need to get corn to make revival fluid, they need to arrive on time for fall, because if they don't, winter will hit and they will need to wait an entire year before they can harvest the corn again. They decide to settle it with a game of poker like it's Kakegurui. It's Gen and Ryusui versus Senku and Kohaku and sweet mother of pearl. Yo, why did they put Kohaku in this dress, bruh? Boichi for sure plays Marvel Rivals and Overwatch. I know what kind of man you are. Nothing but gooners in the studio. Look at these camera angles. It's basically the world's smartest man versus the world's greatest cheater. After going back and forth, they show their hands and Ryusui has a 4 of a kind, with Senku pulling out a royal flush winning the round, meaning that they'll be taking the 40-day route. And of course, my goat is still aura farming like Prime Piccolo. Look, Gohan, this is the well-renowned moonlight shine technique. After making beer and finding out that Senku is a well-esteemed matcha enthusiast, we get to see Matsukaze's backstory, and bro is insanely tough. After the Medusas came raining down, a bunch of people started using them to take out their enemies. Imagine instead of running around with Glocks and switches, the local YN start turning people into stone statues. Let's not give the CIA any new ideas. Matsukaze's master, who looks like Ginro, almost got caught lacking, but he barely managed to save him by cutting off his arm. He's been left looking like future Gohan, so Matsukaze goes on a complete rampage and uses borderline spin jutsu to take down 5 people at once before he gets surrounded by the Medusas and turned into stone. This is really how Thorfinn was moving before he found enlightenment. But hey, let it be on the record that Matsukaze, the Unrivaled, didn't lose in a fair fight.
I got jumped in LA by some pussy ass niggas and they jumped me, nigga. Nobody gave me the faith of a one-on-one, nigga. Nobody gave me the respect of a one-on-one, and I painted that nigga when he was on the ground, just to let y'all know why they jumped me.
They also revive Hyoga again, since Tsukasa says he's necessary to teach the strike team how to wield weapons. He says he's happy to help them as long as he can revive Mars and his situationship Homura. There's really 3 Tsukasa variants and all 3 of them are OP. Tsukasa does frame mug all of them though. Anyways, after 40 days of random side quests and nonsense, they finally make it to America. Fun fact from Uncle Senshiig, I was actually born in North Carolina before I moved countries when I was like 3 years old. The gang starts getting sad when they still see stone statues on the coast of America, as they probably had the tiniest glimmer of hope that maybe someone on the mainland survived or even managed to cure the petrification. They dock the ship and instantly start mapping out the area looking for corn. Whilst going through the river, they get pulled up on by giant crocodiles. The battle team jumps in and genuinely turns them into Gucci handbags. I know we saw Tsukasa pack up a lion with his bare hands, but beating a 2,000-pound crocodile in its own habitat is actually insane. The science strike team might be able to go toe-to-toe with the Akatsuki. After taking down the crocodiles, they turn them into Krabby Patties, and I don't care if we're eating Vector himself. This looks amazing. Francois is low-key wifey material. She can make chum bucket food taste good. Hyoga must agree, cause bro damn near started crying. While Tsukasa is carving up crocodiles, he sees that one of the crocodiles actually swallowed some corn, confirming that they're on the right path. Whilst they are celebrating, we cut over to this ominous thing lurking in the trees. He gets surrounded by a bunch of wolves, so he drops down, backs out his blade, and uses roadman breathing. Second form. Why you're running, bruv? turning Legoshi and his people into mystery meat in a single attack. Who or what is this demon? We come back to the gang and they created a Minecraft beacon so they can catch bugs to hopefully learn more about the environment. Senku finds these bugs that live off corn, but he's confused as to how there's so many of them because it almost seems like there's someone growing an entire cornfield nearby. As Tsukasa straight up senses someone's cursed energy in the trees, as we see a renegade wielder camping in the bushes like Yuta. Tsukasa is actually a marquee character because what do you mean you sense someone's killing intent? Gold and Killua had an entire training arc with Biscuit before they were able to do that. He alerts the strike team when everyone is locked in, but that's when his spidey senses start tingling again as he pulls a Tanjiro and smells a faint scent of smoke, which means that this person is trapped up. This man, on his King Von timing, no questions asked, begins unloading his machine gun from the top rope. This is how Punisher players move in Marvel Rivals. You'd think he'd catch at least one buddy, but this man Tsukasa not only uses Future Sight to warn everyone to run away, he dodges the first round of bullets before saving Ginro and dodging the bullets again, but this time whilst carrying a 55 kg human being. What? According to my calculations, bullets from a modern day machine gun travel at around 1600 miles per hour. I'd say Tsukasa was around 30 feet away from the tree, which means that he displayed reflexes and superhuman abilities on par with Prime Captain America and Batman. Everyone is scattering and trying to take cover from this actual terrorist attempting to turn them into the next best thing on Live League.
It's a machine gun!
Thank you, Ukyo. That was a much needed commentary. My clutch shooter Ryusui locks in and reverses the boat, creating a water barrier, giving everyone enough time to get away. Damn. Hey, what can I say? Welcome to America. But quite frankly, you guys entered illegally, so I and my people take care of you guys. Yo. Yo, I'm sorry, bro. I thought I'd be able to do like a Donald Trump impression, but I don't think you're gonna end me right now. The gang is obviously flabbergasted as to what just happened, and they realize that somehow people managed to revive on their own the same way Senku did, which means they are up against someone who might be just as smart as Senku, if not smarter, with bad intentions, since he created that Pack-a-Punch 3000. They continue to follow the river upstream to try and put some distance between them and the Winter Soldier. Ukyo says he's right behind them on the radar, but no one sees anything until they look up and see bro is following them by plane. Astaghfirullah. That even had Senku perplexed. Or is he turned on? I don't know. Luke Skywalker flies low and pulls out his machine gun and Swiss cheeses both their boats, lighting them up. He prepares for another round of attacks whilst they are immobilized, but Senku quickly locks back in and mixes some materials together with the river water and throws it to Kurosame. He tells her to aim for the propeller to try and jam the engine. She green times the throw and the attacker is forced to make an emergency landing. Kurosame is a W addition to the team, but can we please get her some non-see-through clothes? The pilot that was chasing them steps out the plane whilst receiving comms from someone else, and hold up, insane aura, inhuman physical abilities, yellow hair, purple lips, Dio Brando? Man, this guy just be spawning in children anywhere. He could have stopped spreading his genes. I would have thought the gang would try to run away, but Senku and Ryusui won the plane for themselves since they might be able to salvage it. W looting. After some strategizing, they want to track down the pilot to hopefully get more information out of them. So they send Gen, Chrome and Kohaku on their side quest, and bro, what do you mean strategize? This man almost turned you guys into a Twitter movement twice. I don't think he's gonna fall for no type of talk no jutsu. Gun follows his footsteps and realizes that it's probably a trap since it's way too obvious. After following for a while, bro gets ambushed by the pilot and he puts him at machine gun point straight away before patting him down. His name is Stanley and he says he has a lot of questions for Gen as he tells him to follow him along to meet his leader. They pull up to their base and these guys are chilling at like Town Hall 17 while Senku and his people are all the way down at like Town Hall 9. And they got crazy cornfields, dairy farms, paved roads, and a whole ass steampunk factory that looks straight out of New Super Mario Bros. DS. I wouldn't be surprised if they had Bowser Jr. chilling at the top. We get to meet Stan's leader and it's this guy named Dr. Zeno, and I don't know who he's feeling like with them clothes. Wolverine, Captain Kuro, Freddy Krueger. They hook Gen up to a lie detector and begin questioning him. But this is just a challenge for Gen. He loves the game. He loves the hustle. He starts lying like Prime Reagan Arataka and tells them that he fled the Science Kingdom because they were overworking him. He wants to infiltrate them and relay the info back to the science team. Zeno asks what the name of the genius scientist is, so Gen again decides to say it's Taiju, since he would most likely be able to handle any pain or physical torment if he were to get captured. Chrome calls Senku to try and relay some information about Zeno's base, but that's when Zeno hijacks the line and makes contact. He says he wants to speak with Dr. Taiju, which had the gang flabbergasted, but Senku quickly catches on that Gen created a diversion. They start talking and I'm surprised Zeno didn't catch on right away. Taju's just saying a whole bunch of gobbledygook. I think it's fair to know that Zeno did say his Japanese is not that good, so that might be why they're able to get away with it. Dr. Zeno says that their factory can produce infinite amounts of gunpowder and they could easily annihilate them instantly. He really said F them kids. He does give them the opportunity to work for them, since they don't have a lot of manpower, which means that they don't know how to revive people. He says that him and his fellow military people managed to stay conscious and eventually got revived with a bit of nitric acid, just like Senku. But it's highly unlikely that a bunch of Japanese high schoolers all had the same level of mental fortitude, which means that they must have a way to revive people turned into stone. Damn, W deductions. This really feels like I'm watching a modern day version of Light vs. L. I love it when two smart anime characters squabble up. Taiji tells him that they'll never give him the info, so bro just hangs up, and not even 10 seconds later, he already called his #1 shooter Stanley to handle that for him with a brand new fighter jet. He's just scouting them out since he doesn't want to risk crashing the plane like he did last time. Senku says that the only way to beat a jet in aerial combat is with another jet, so they begin rebuilding the one that they captured. Whilst they are building their plane using Phineas and Ferb levels of Toon Force, they have another strategy meeting. They realize that they need to launch a counterattack because if they stay in one spot for too long, they might get boomed from above like before. They decide to send Tsukasa, Hyoga, Ukiyo, and Suika. She is not beating the Suika subplot allegations anytime soon. She's literally the Gohan of Dr. Stone. He was in them Namek trenches going to war with intergalactic terrorists. Whilst that was happening, we cut over to Gen and dear Mamacita. Who is this brolic, light-skinned muscle mommy out here looking like Angela? Dr. Zeno says that they are going to use Stanley to take out Dr. Taiju, since without their main scientist they'll be practically useless.
Poor Taiju! I really need to warn him about the Astine assassin who's plotting to turn him into Swiss cheese. Into Swiss cheese.
Yo. This is from the actual dub. I love it when studios use up-to-date lingo and meme culture. Dr. Stone and Gachi Ekuta gotta be the best at it. Stanley is planning on sniping Dr. Taiji when we get to meet this girl named Luna, who he's planning on sending off as a decoy. He wants her to point out Taiji to make sure he gets an accurate shot. This Luna Snow variant has these two simps, and this man Usopp is really doing anything except learning Haki. I literally vowed on my Twitter to never tweet again until this bum does something cool, just for me to catch bro simping over a snow bunny in a whole different anime during Black History Month.
It appears you've been snow bunnied. Somebody sent me a picture because we have a snow bunny watch. We have a national black celebrity snow bunny watch.
Anyways, Dr. Zeno sets up his sniper on high ground like Myth in 2018 and gets ready to hardscope the gang. Luna realizes she is about to assist in the killing of another human being and has a completely normal reaction to it. Stanley is high-key the crazy one in this situation, but to be fair to him, he was in the military. The US military too, like I'm sure he's committed his fair share of war crimes. She jumps onto the ship and puts on a generational acting performance claiming she's escaped from Zeno's kingdom. Mars is just trying to crack, but Yusui is obviously skeptical. I really thought Senku would have told her to hit the road, but bro damn near turns into a Disney prince and says he will help her out. My nonchalant aura farming scientist had me in the first half, I'm not gonna lie, but turns out he just wants to extract as much info out of her as possible. That's the Senku I know. Luna instantly begins scouting for Taiju, but not even after 30 seconds of being on the boat, Yuzuriha calls for Taiju and Luna is perplexed realizing it's him. She's having second thoughts about pointing him out when Senku shows us a 101 masterclass in picking up girls. I didn't know he had riz like that.
Info on Zeno. Tell me everything you know.
Yeah, never mind. I don't know what I was thinking. This is the same man who got married to Ruri just so he could enter the village. They decide to soften her up by making ice cream, and what in the kakegurui is even going on? No way ice cream is that good. Either way it works since she's starting to open up. She says the ice cream was elegant, which is a phrase Zeno likes to use.
In the words of Dr. Zeno, well, it's rather elegant.
Was Dr. Zeno a NASA scientist?
Senku managed to pick up on it because apparently his mentor back when he was a kid was the same Dr. Zeno, and he'd always sign off his letters with "Science is elegant." Damn. We end up getting our usual cutie patootie younger Senku flashback, and as he was doing research for his rocket ship, he got stuck, so decided to email a bunch of NASA scientists for help as a 7-year-old. They were perplexed by his IQ, and Dr. Zeno took an interest in his genius by helping him via email. Off topic, but Taiju is actually such a real ass homie. He got absolutely no idea what's going on, but still supported Senku however he could. After extorting his pops for his credit card and upgrading his science lab with Dr. Zeno's help, he continued to improve his experiments. Dr. Zeno and Senku were both equally talented in science. However, while Senku was more focused on making new scientific discoveries, Dr. Zeno was more interested in world domination and creating weapons of mass destruction.
You know, I actually think
killing people is making the world a better place.
I think he wants to kill us.
Oh, no, not you per se, but just people in general.
Yeah, no, I want to kill them. All of them.
They are basically two sides of the same coin, one with a childlike curiosity and the other with an insatiable appetite for power. The light Yagami and Al dynamic is in full effect. We also see that Zeno and Byakuya were actually colleagues and even spoke about this hypothetical scenario for what they would do if they got sent back to the Stone Age. Zeno says that he would rule with scientific weapons, but Byakuya gives the biggest oral up to Senku and says that someone equally as smart would come along to challenge him. They did end up meeting one time in America when Senku came to visit his pops to get more money from him, which then brings us to one day before the Petrification, which had the world's greatest minds researching the petrified birds. Senku did his own research and published it, coming to the conclusion that the birds are real. Over in America, they are also holding an emergency meeting where they call upon the most intelligent and talented people in their fields. They think it's some form of terrorism when Zeno proposes that if the bird's brainwaves remained conscious, it would eventually break free. Whilst they are discussing it, the beam hits America, petrifying everyone. But since they received the knowledge about staying conscious, a lot of them did end up breaking free. It's not as impressive as Senku, who counted for 3 millennia, but it's still insane that they stayed conscious for 3,700 years. Everyone had their own methods. These two stayed awake by thinking about buns, Stanley stayed awake by fantasizing about Dr. Zeno, and Luna is by far the funniest. She managed to stay awake through nothing but positive affirmations. Zeno and Senku wake up at the exact same time, both speedrunning the early game like Prime Dream and those OG manhunts. Stanley was the next to wake up, followed by the remaining people of the military who also heard about having to stay awake. And Boichi, I know what kind of man you are. Got her out here looking like Rogue's jungle outfit. After awakening Usopp, he coughs up a ring which is made out of platinum, meaning they got a key ingredient required to make gunpowder. Zeno hasn't even been awake for a couple of days and already trying to up the gun violence rate. These are true Americans. Anyways, that brings us back to the present day. Everyone is out on deck, so Luna gets ready to point out Taiju, but just as she's about to do it, she feels bad because they were so kind to her. She decides to relay a message instead and tells Stanley that someone named Senku knows Zeno. They relay it to Zeno, but the Usui saw Luna sending some sort of signal. Stanley is about to boom Taiju when Zeno tells him to stop and explain that Senku is his old apprentice who was helping him out. I genuinely thought they were gonna team up together to take out Y-Man, but nah, he wants Senku out of the equation with maximum efficiency. He tells Stanley how tall Senku is and Stanley narrows it down to 3 targets. The Usui spots the glare of the sniper and tells everyone to hit the deck. The cover seems to be blown as Luna is looking directly at Stanley, giving away his location. But since Stan had 3 targets, he realizes that the one that reacts accordingly will be the actual genius scientist, as of course Senku spots Luna and then sees Stanley. GG's, it's wraps. Senku turns into a track star and tries to hide behind the main deck, but Stan plans on wallbanging him like it's prime Call of Duty. He asks Zeno one last time whether he wants to pack him up, and Zeno gives the green light. Yo, this guy is evil as hell, bro. He helped him since he was 7 years old. Senku is scrambling to find something to lessen the blow from the sniper shot. Stanley takes the shot and the shrapnel blasts through the ship's side and penetrates their bag, leaving Senku on 2 HP. Damn. Stanley didn't land a headshot, but he definitely cracked his shield. And just hearing that war cry from Taiji hit home. Senku is doing horrible. He's barely able to talk and passes out from the blood loss. Now, here's one thing I just absolutely hate about Dr. Stone. I've been saying this since the first video dropped, but this whole forgive and forget nonsense is insane. Luna quite literally backdoored the person who has saved everyone on that ship on numerous occasions and she still hasn't been locked up or at least questioned. Ryusui literally saw everything transpire and is still acting way too calm for my liking. If I get sniped and my homies are buddy with the opposition the next day, I'ma be pissed. She goes over to try and help Senku out because apparently she was a medical student before the petrification happened. I cut her a bit of slack since she technically didn't point at anyone, but still, I really don't like how careless Senku has been in this season in comparison to like the other seasons. In season 1, he literally created a crossbow the same day he met Tsukasa. Luna was clearly a threat to the ship's safety. We cut over to Chrome and Kohaku who are trying to figure out how they'll infiltrate Zeno's base when Tsukasa, Hyoga, Ukyo and Suika pull up on them as backup. And damn, Kohaku is acting like Duke Dennis pulled up.
Davis? No!
To be fair to her, I would react like that too if Tsukasa, Hyoga and me pulled up as backup. Like, it's completely understandable, you know. After some strategizing, they decide that the best way to infiltrate their way in is to dig a tunnel, so they call Senku to try and help them build a machine. Just to find out he got caught lacking by the ops. It hit Chrome especially hard as he's now the main scientist, and unlike Megumi, this man steps up to the plate and locks in. Mind you, he's from the Stone Age and has been left in charge of people from the modern day. After some cooking, they deduce that they'll need around 2 weeks to build their machine. Since Zeno thinks Senku is dead, it's only a matter of time before he comes after the remaining kids. They need to buy themselves some time, so they decide to give Zeno the Medusa as some sort of bluff to make him think that they have the power to turn people into stone. Gen sells the story and bro's really putting up MVP numbers right now. This gives the science team extra time to create their gel and to try and make it to Stanley while Senku tries to recover. The science team has the Gold Master Roshi create a drill and sends the human machine Taiju to help them out with some extra manpower. Whilst they are taking the lab to him, he runs into Usopp and Dexter, and this man Dexter wasted no time, instantly up the pole on Taiju. Taiju really unfazed though, he knows they are some fake demons. He tells them to like join him on his way to Chrome and the others, and like, what is even happening anymore? They just sniped your day 1. He just upped a blicky on you like 2 seconds ago. Can you please stop befriending the ops? Usopp asks Taiju why he's being so nice and whether Luna is okay, when he says that's just his nature. Taiju is really the GOAT. My Aina comparison from season 1 not even sounding that crazy right now. After linking back up with the others, they actually start acting like competent human beings and tie bro up with swiftness. After some more Phineas and Ferb levels of B-roll, they finally complete their drill. It might be time to have some uncomfortable conversations about Chrome. I got him as top 5 most useful characters in the show right now. We cut back to Senku who's still doing horrible. Luna has been treating him and they told her all of Senku's lore, which is making her fall in love with him even more. This is really how Ichigo had Orihime. Senku has some blood trapped in his lung and needs Luna to drain it using a needle. She says she'll do it if Senku becomes her boyfriend? She isn't forcing him, to be fair, she just wants him to consider it. Had my boy flabbergasted. Imagine the girl that just backdoored you is now trying to cuff you up. Who is she feeling like, Esda from Akame ga Kill? Senku obviously agrees? Yeah, this is Senku we're talking about. Luna even broadcasted it over the radio. This is the equivalent of being posted on Instagram. Usopp overhears the news and breaks down before saying he's going to help the gang by drawing the layout of Zeno's factory because he's only loyal to Luna. Bro's happy being in the chair. Fast forward a few more days and it seems like Stanley is finally making his move. The Usui is prepared though and pulls out their own fighter jet that they stole from Stan. Senku is also doing a lot better as they actually take flight. This is just crazy, man. Imagine you show this to someone in season 1. They tell you it's AI. Stanley is actually entertaining it and tries to test their chain by doing a bunch of advanced maneuvers. The Usui is low-key keeping up and kinda applying that full court pressure right now. Stanley pulls out his ultimate and uses some type of yo-yo move to make it back into that 6 o'clock. Ryusui locks in and says, "It looks much cooler on me," before he Sharingan Stanley's technique and returns back to his blind spot. This might be insanely niche, but I used to play this one fighter jet game on the Wii called Sky Heroes. I only briefly played it, but this dogfight reminds me exactly of that. Ryusui pulls out his blicky to try and land a clean shot, but Stanley starts rocking back and forth to throw off his aim. Whilst that's going on, Matsukaze realizes that it may be a diversion for a ground attack, and he was along the right path, because they pull out a submarine. Mind you, we've barely mastered building submarines in the modern day. I hear about a brutal submarine implosion like once every couple of months. They emerge underwater and boom the boat before boarding the ship, wearing battle armor straight out of Call of Duty. Damn! Within less than 10 seconds, they seize the ship and tied up everyone on the top floor of the boat. They go to scout out the lower decks, and the 2 Suika variants pull up ready for smoke. They both had blue ARs, but still got diffed by Mars and Matsukaze. I know they they probably don't know how to use them, but they really should have picked up their loot before launching their attack. Anyways, Miles pulls up to the main deck and takes out another enemy combatant. They throw some grenades and Matsukaze damn near perfect Daigo parries all of them. We cut back over to Senku and Ryusui, who once again take high ground since they can't get a clean shot. They brought some more of those engine stalling gases and start dropping it from above on Stanley, actually managing to take out his engine. But right as they're about to secure the W, Senku gets delirious due to a lack of oxygen and drops one in their plane, which causes them to stall too. They both take the crash landing, and how they are able to walk this off is beyond me. Like, I know these characters scaled to the Bakiverse at the bare minimum. Tsunade's little bro got packed up by this measly explosion, but these Japanese high schoolers are tanking plane crashes? Yeah. They run over to Stanley and hold him at gunpoint just to see a caked up version of Stanley. What is going on? Turns out they hit us with a classic switcheroo as we cut over to Mars and Matsukaze, who get ambushed by the real Stanley. He jumps in, pops Matsukaze, blocks Mars' spear with the barrel of his gun, and two pieces his shoulder. Damn, is this Stanley or Alucard from Hellsing? I really thought it was raps, but we're talking about humanity's smartest high schooler. As it turns out, Tsukasa and the gang made it all the way to Zeno and have bro at knife points. It's a stalemate. They snatch up Zeno and run back to their underground tunnel. They plan to blow up the other exit, but it backfires as Chrome and Zeno get stuck together. They start digging from either side while Zeno tries to reverse talk no jutsu Chrome into joining his cause. It obviously fails as they break through and escape, successfully kidnapping Zeno. Dexter frees Luna together with Francois and Kasaki as everyone regroups in the forest to plan their next course of action. Zeno and Senku finally get to reunite, and he is way too calm for meeting with the person that tried to put a bounty on his head. Zeno literally thought he killed him. Low-key, this Luna and Senku dynamic is kind of like a more civilized version of Boa Hancock and Luffy. They decide to call Nick Fury, who's like the second in command in Zeno's factory, and Senku just straight up tells him the recipe for revival fluid. He tells him that he wants to revive 1 million people and that him and the captured hostages should work together to make that happen. Brody actually agrees since he's kind of like Ukyo and would rather focus on rebuilding humanity over anything else. He tells Senku that Stanley will continue to chase him, and he says it's fine as long as everyone else remains safe. So the people staying behind to build a new city will be working together with Zeno's men while Stanley tries to catch Senku. It sets up an interesting dynamic. Senku and the gang decide to go to South America since that's the center of where the beam originally came from. And I don't know, but there's just something emotional about this goodbye. It really hit home. It reminded me of when the Straw Hats left Alabasta. We get to see a quick backstory of a young Zeno and Stanley, and this just further implicates the Taiju and Senku parallels. They are just the slightly more unethical version. We cut over to Stanley and his strike force who are stacking up on fuel when we see that Matsukaze and Ginro are still on the ship. Matsukaze ends up getting captured and he's ready to stand 10 toes and refuses to tell them where Senku is going. Stanley holds him at gunpoint when Ginro folds and tells him they are going to South America. We cut over to Senku and Zeno, and they decide to share all the information on what they know about the petrification weapon, since at the end of the day, Zeno loves science just as much as Senku. They are brainstorming on how the petrification beam works as they slowly but surely continue to make minor breakthroughs. Seeing Senku, Chrome and Zeno is like seeing Gojo, Sukuna and Yuji. All three of them are goated, but there's clearly a skill gap between the top two. They realize that the speed of the petrification beam stays the same, and it took 15 minutes to reach from Stanley to Senku, which allowed them to calculate the exact area of where the initial beam landed, the center of the Amazon rainforest. It takes a long time before they reach it, and Stanley is slowly catching up to them as he has more fuel and a faster ship. Whilst Taiji is out chopping down wood for fuel, him and Suika spot floating letters that say hell. He alerts the rest of the gang, and I really thought this was why, man. They pull up to its location, and it's just this golem looking creature. Turns out this is Chelsea, a geographer who got petrified during the military conference. She would have linked up with Zeno, but because her eyesight is terrible, she got lost and was forced to survive on her own. She kinda talks like that one girl from My Hero Academia.
Whoa, big yikes! Like that was for realsies close. Cox is a total riz cake. You can't unalive that snack. I had to agree, Vera. Hold up, fam. You sure that's all for one? When do you get a face card?
Since she's a geographer, Senku asks whether she knows a possible shortcut they can take by land to hopefully shake Stanley. She agrees to help them and says that there is a route that they can take, but they'll need motorcycles. So you already know we're getting another Phineas and Ferb B-roll. Since they'll need to stop a ton to gather materials, Stanley's strike force might catch up to them. They got their own super talented radar guy and he's locked onto their position. They really do need to increase their speed, so they decide to use Chelsea's kite and turn their boat into a sailboat. They also decide to create a decoy using the mobile lab, since it will show up on the enemy's radar and they'll have to make a decision on which vessel they'll plan to follow. And this is literally the alabaster reference I was talking about earlier. They pull over to collect the materials needed to make rubber so that they can make the wheels for the motorcycle. After creating the tires, they make it to shore and start pulling apart the ship to do the final assembly. Whilst that was going on, Stanley caught up to the decoy and eviscerated it, no questions asked. After realizing it was a trap, they changed course to the main ship. A couple of days go by and these guys roll out like SEAL Team 6. This is how the enemy team of Marvel rivals start moving the moment you're one game away from ranking up. Senku and the gang were prepared though and skedaddle out of there on their motorcycles. Now I gotta say, for being the military supposedly best men, their aim is hot dookie juice. Moving like Star Wars stormtroopers, moving like Vegeta's Ki Blast, moving like Drewski's jumper. Zeno suggests moving him to the back and use him as a human meat shield. I thought bro was finally joining the good side, but nah, he just wanted to face Stanley so he could send him a message with his eyes using Morse code. Stanley tries to launch their plane, but it instantly crashes because Senku filled the engine with sugar water when they initially crashed during the dogfight. And damn,
nigga, what you doing out here with all this ass? Double cheeked up on a Thursday afternoon, hella ass. The sun is still out, my nigga, and it was just, I mean.
Yo, who actually is this female version of Stanley? They just introduced her for straight fan service. Jokes aside, I hate when people say Senku is only book smart. This is the smartest anime character of all time. Ayano does not touch my goat. They managed to get away and send a message to the others left at the factory and tell them to take apart the Medusa and try to potentially fix it. Homeru manages to find it and Brody allows them to work on it as long as they are supervised. Ryusui gives them the location of their super talented watchmaker. Hold on, is that Nez? His name is Joel and he's a little bit arrogant but becomes super introverted around women. Basically your average engineering student. Joel gets to work right away and starts picking it apart as he finds some type of battery. After pulling it out and putting it back in, he tries to test it and lo and behold, it actually works, petrifying himself in the process. Man, if that's all it took, I could have done this. Back in the day, I used to switch the TV from HDMI 1 to HDMI 2 all the time. Stanley has taken flight and the gang is stuck at a ravine attempting to cross it. They are planning on making a cable cut and you want to sit here and tell me with a straight face that this is a completely normal human feat? These guys are at least street tier level characters. After creating the cable car, they manage to cross relatively smoothly and make it to the great Amazon jungle. Stanley's plane will be borderline useless in the Amazon since he can't land and won't be able to spot them from above. The science team is on their way to Brazil. I hope they unpetrify Neymar Jr. I'm sure it'd be of good use. Since they are in the rainforest, they've been getting ambushed by all sorts of creatures and not gonna lie, I think I finally figured it out. Suika must be part Australian. That's the only logical explanation for him being able to take on all these animals. Seeing these guys go through the forest just reminds me of like playing Zelda Breath of the Wild for the first time. After some time, they finally make it to their destination. And yeah, I was expecting them to find like a couple of Medusas similar to the way they fell on Treasure Island. But nah, we find hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of Medusas stacked on top of each other like a desert temple. Wyman wanted to make sure not a single soul survived, bro. Like, we're dealing with an intergalactic terrorist. Had the whole gang flabbergasted. Senku and Taiji test them all out to see if they still work, but it seems like none of them have any juice left. The gang set up a mini campsite so they can try and study and research the Medusas, and because they have so many, they can take them apart as much as they want. They find out that the material the Medusa is made out of shows no signal, which is part of the reason it didn't show up on anyone's radar when they first landed. Since it has this property, Chrome suggests that they should coat the entire ship with them so they can remain hidden from Stanley. W plays. After some more researching, they find some diamonds that seem to not have been blackened. After trying them out, they still don't work, so they come to the conclusion that they are defects. What it does tell them though is that if they put a new diamond battery in the Medusa, it should work again. He gives the factory team the steps to make a diamond, and all they need to do is heat up a bunch of alcohol until they eventually have enough. After doing that, Senku tells them that they also need to dig up a real diamond, and with the help of Chelsea, they find a place where to find them. After collecting them, they just gotta use the Fugazi diamonds to carve the real diamonds into the correct shape, because you know, the only thing that can cut a diamond is a diamond. Now all the foreplay has been done, Senku decides to cut out all future communications until the battle is officially done, since he doesn't want Stanley picking up on their location. The Science team is headed towards Arashar, which is a stone sanctuary where they might be able to find some diamonds too. Because of Zeno's original signal, Stanley knows where they are headed and is planning to beat them there. Turns out Senku realized but allowed it to happen since he wants to face Stanley and steal the Perseus back, as they needed to cross the Atlantic Ocean. The Science team has built a mini fortress and is preparing a bunch of Medusa based traps for if they do manage to find diamonds. They are really in their Home Alone bag right now. However, Stanley is a Batman level prodigy, as we saw earlier. There's no way he's falling for a string trap, so Chrome comes up with a kamikaze plan. They will petrify an extremely large area the moment they see Stanley and have someone sit outside that area with revival fluids. They decide to send Suika and Francois as the revivers, and this seems like a W plan, I won't lie. Even so, this whole plan does depend on whether they can actually create a battery for the Medusa. Suika and Francois start heading out, but they spot Stanley's stealth squad and realize they might be fried. They try to stay hidden and sweet mother of pearl, yo. This has to be on purpose.
I gotta know exactly who you are. Lord have mercy. We must stay focused, brothers. We must stay focused.
The female Stanley got bit by an insanely venomous spider, and me personally, I would have dipped out. These guys have been actively trying to put me on a t-shirt, but of course Suika wants to be Deku and decides to save her. And lo and behold, the thanks is that she got hawked down by a bunch of brolic armed men. Francois throws Matsukaze a knife and he decides to free Ginro. This is the equivalent to relying on Renji. Bro starts cowering like a bum, but just as they are about to turn Suika into okra soup, he locks in, re-times the quick time event, and takes out 3 guards with nothing but a stick. This is like when Krillin randomly realized he's actually like that during the Resurrection F arc. Stanley comes in and disarms Ginro without killing him, which means he is planning to use him as a hostage. Francois realizes this too and decides they are better off surrendering since they probably won't be able to do anything anyways. She managed to send a last minute signal warning them that they made contact with Stanley and have been captured. This is good for the Science team since they know where they are at, but they don't know where the Science team is at. Well, it would have been good if Kohaku wasn't so restless, but I do get it. That's basically her little sister. Senku sent Tsukasa and Hyoga after them, and not gonna lie, this is a strong 3-man team. They set off a fake gunshot sound effect to force a move, but as they are strategizing, the muscle woman turns around like Sister Krone and spots them hiding in the tree. This is terrifying. Tsukasa drops from the top rope and takes out the first guy. Hyoga also disarms one of them, but Kohaku gets slammed instantly. Imagine having a team so strong that Kohaku is the weak point. They take up a 3-man formation and actually begin putting on that full court pressure. This woman pushes over a whole ass tree onto Kohaku, but Tsukasa steps in, stopping it.
It is Tsukasa. Who's that? He's the strongest primate high schooler. He's a martial artist, Japan's champion.
Tsukasa is a Japanese high schooler. These are 40-year-old army veterans and they know him by name. Do you know how much aura you gotta have for your name to be known worldwide? They are treating him like he's Kakashi. They're treating him like he's Gojo. She starts smiling thinking it's easy pickings and gets hit with a Mike Tyson overhand. Her and Tsukasa begin to square off and this man begins sonic swaying all his hits like it's October 2024 again. Take me back. He grabs her hand before spin jutsu backhanding her liver straight into the wall. Oh my goodness, this guy is actually the GOAT. This is the equivalent to when Thanos put belt to ass on the Hulk. No contest. How strong is Tsukasa really? Like, how high is his ceiling? No way. They really shot my GOAT. They pumped bro full of lead. They literally lit him up. There was no need to shoot him that many times. Kohaku screams out and almost gets caught lacking, so Hyoga decides to sacrifice himself and gets blasted in the process too. Such goated character development. With tears in her eyes, she continues the mission and takes out the communication device. But just as that happens, Stanley points up his Zapatron and lights her up too, man. I hate to say I told you so, but if you go back to the first video, you'll see that Tsukasa was right all along. Man, I'm not even gonna lie, as an anime only Dr. Stone fan, this scene genuinely had me hurting. I was in borderline tears. I wouldn't even cap. Like, matter of fact, I'm tearing up right now just making this video. And they had the audacity to drop this episode with no ending song, no aftercare, no nothing. They just ended the episode black screen. Finished. Had me looking at my reflection like damn. And in his last moments, almost like a ultimate full circle moment, Tsukasa leaves everything to Senku and prays that he can set off the petrification weapon in time to maybe save them. Beautiful. I hated Stanley so much after this episode. Like, I already hated him a ton, but I wanted them to smoke this dickhead even more now. Stanley continues to rush the enemy base whilst the science team has no idea what happened to their comrades. Since Suika and Francois got captured, they decide to send Chelsea and Luna as their new revival team. Ukyo spots them and Stanley's team wastes no time. They start carpet bombing the enemy base. I know Stanley plays Clash of Clans. He started out with wall breakers before deploying the barbarians. Stanley and his squad are rushing the base and he says that they have to shoot every single person regardless of if they surrender. This man is an apprentice of Shaitan. Pure evil. Taiji gets hit with a grenade and I think it might be Raps. The Yusui is the next to get sniped and they even eviscerate Gen's white flag. This has to be some sort of war crime. Surely shooting a surrendering person goes against the Geneva Convention. Stanley is out here moving like Israel. The entire campsite is looking like Jahannam and even Senku is looking borderline hopeless. Senku, Chrome and Kasuki are hiding away when they get a call. It's none other than Joel who managed to complete the Medusa. Sadly, Brody instantly snatches it and apprehends the factory team. They send one last message to Joel through his watch and everyone gets up and bomb rushes the guards without any regard for whether they will die. This literally reminds me of that one scene from Attack on Titan when Erwin tells everyone to charge the Beast Titan. This is beautiful, man. Senku told them that they need to try and petrify the entire earth to prevent Zeno from winning. Bro's basically trying to rage quit. Mars is putting in work and takes the key from Brody, flinging it into the air. Homer relucts in and grabs it but gets lit up on sight. This is like one giant game of hot potato as Magma grabs it and manages to open the vault. They are slaughtering children one by one until it really seems like it's over. Joel springs up from underneath a shot buddy and actually manages to make contact with the Medusas but gets his arm slammed by Brody. He managed to turn on his watch at the very last second though and begins talking spicy to Brody as he secures the deal with Wyman, who's apparently been broadcasting the petrification command from space this entire time. Since the petrification has officially started, it means that Senku has around 15 minutes to come up with his plan. He wants to set up a stream of nitric acid to try and revive one person after they get petrified, the same way they did against Ibarra. Well, I'll be damned. Stanley has sniped Senku and destroyed the revival fluid, but regardless, it's too late because the green light has once again started rising from the west. Ukyo frees Francois and Suika to try and take some extra revival fluid to Senku, but Stanley lights them up as him and Zeno finally reunite. They plan on throwing the revival fluid at the same time as the beam arrives to revive themselves, but the MVP, clutch shooter 3-point demon Suika, stole all the revival fluid before escaping in the last second. She gets to Chrome who puts it in the Medusa's clock tower. Since Taiju partially broke it earlier, it's only a matter of time before the thing completely breaks, dropping new revival fluid, meaning that whoever is petrified underneath it when it breaks will be revived and wins the game. Senku is unable to move, so he tells Suika to lie underneath the tower to make sure that at least someone awakens. Everyone seems to have already mentally been defeated, but Stanley thinks about shooting the revival fluid. This would mean that Bro would rather cook the entire human race than have some Japanese high schooler beat him. Stanley realizes that if the science team survives, they'll likely be revived anyways, since they'll have to revive Zeno because they need his IQ, so he chooses not to shoot it, as everyone, all the remaining people, all get turned to stone. Sensational. Even though everyone is petrified, this scenic calm I feel reminds me of like the first day of summer holidays, man. You just wake up, the sun is shining, no responsibilities, like I don't know, I just feel alive, I feel hopeful. Fast forward a few months and just seeing this dog and this boar from season 1 go on their adventure together as they continue to grow in size is honestly beautiful. I can low-key see them making a Disney movie about these guys. We eventually cut back to Suika, who after all this time finally gets revived, just like Senku said she would. She tries to find the revival fluid, but she's completely unable to find it. Realizing she's all alone, she begins to cry, and I understand. She's like 12 years old. When I was that age, I was playing Pokemon Go. After realizing no one is coming to save her, she locks in and decides to save everyone. She lines everyone up and begins to collect all the statues of her friends friends. She's really on a Kid Gohan Promised Neverland timing right now. After finding Chelsea's map, she stacks up on food and other essentials when she finds a piece of paper in Senku's clothes. This 10,000 IQ demon wrote down 3 different methods for making revival fluid. The first 2 methods are very quick, but also very difficult to get right. The last one would take extremely long, but is easier to follow. She attempts the first 2 options but fails miserably, so she's forced to do option 3 and extract nitric acid from animal dookie. She does this for a couple of years and continues to overcome adversity after adversity. And man, I can't help but compare this to like the start of a single player open world video game. They should actually create a AAA Dr. Stone survival game where you need to overcome enemies whilst trying to revive all your allies. I should really patent this idea. Hey, if anyone sees this, hit me up. Let's work. 7 years go by and lo and behold, Senku was counting as a much older Suika pours the revival fluid on Senku, finally bringing my goat back to life. Sensational, man. He's cutting onions, bro. He's cutting onions. She really did it, bro. Like, anything is possible. Anything is possible. She hustled and grinded for 7 years straight on her own. Now, listen to me. I better not see no gooned out, no freaked out comments. I saw some out of pocket individuals making some wild statements whilst this show was airing about Suika. And of course, the first order of business of the wake up for Senku is the aura farm. He gets straight to work, and I'm not even joking. What took Suika 7 years, Senku did in a day. Like, he made a whole batch of revival fluid in a single day. They revived Kohaku next, and this reunion is so amazing. They are really sisters. They repeated over the next couple of days, and Francois had no reason to reawaken as a totally spiced magical girl. Slay, I guess. After 16 days, all the science team is back to business. Hyoge is the last one to be revived, and lo and behold, bro is back to full health, and the squad is back together on their usual nonsense. Tsukasa and Senku meet up, and that's where he tells him that Hyoge was 100% completely dead before he got petrified, which means that the petrification has the ability to bring people back from the dead if it's within like a reasonable time period. Senku obviously had this hypothesis, and Tsukasa is rightfully so worried. For a human to reach immortality is a terrifying concept, especially if the rich and powerful were to get their hands on such technology. They are already doing all sorts of devilish nonsense in the real world. Imagine if they never died. Or even worse, we start scrambling for resources to the point that the earth can no longer provide for its population. I wouldn't even be surprised if the higher ups created some type of Culling Games, Hunger Games-esque like event where a certain number of people would be killed to keep the population manageable. Chrome overhears them and begins celebrating because his innocent mind can only think of the positives. It means that him and his friends will be able to live forever and will never need to part ways. Senku revives Zeno and tells him he's going to help them reach the moon and go to meet Wyman. He agrees, since Wyman is obviously going to keep trying to petrify everyone, and that would be bad for him too. Zeno sees Stanley's statue, and Tsukasa, Kohaku and Hyoge are better people than me. I would have turned his ass into a jigsaw and scattered his body across the 7 seas. No way I'm letting this demon be revived. Anyways, now that everyone's goals are aligned, they shift focus to creating their very own spaceship in the Stone Age. This is exhilarating. Get excited. Man, I can't wait for the final season. This is gonna be so peak. I've got so many questions and I'm finally going to get them answered. I low-key grew up with Dr. Stone, so watching it come to an end is gonna hurt. Same with like when MHA ended. I'm for sure gonna tear up. Anyways, that's it from me. If you made it this far, you clearly enjoyed the video. Make sure you subscribe and join the family. I am so ill. I said it at the start of the video. I am extremely ill. Like I know you can hear in my voice, but I wanted to show up for you guys. So yeah, YouTube thinks you like this video on Screen X, so check it out. Peace.